having the ability to rally people behind an idea, I think is very critical.
Yeah. So when you sit in this boardroom, young Phyllis,
Yes.
Getting into management and leadership,
Yes.
what anchored you?
I started my career, and one of the things I anchored my career on is a saying that says, don't go where the path has been treaded, go where the path is not been followed, and create your own path. So that's the angle I took.
And for a young manager or a young leader,
Yes.
What does that mean for them? What advice would you have for them?
Ask more questions, understand the issues, but don't stop or stop yourself from showing up simply because you're scared. And influence comes from building trusted relationships, people knowing that you're credible, that you come to the table with clean hands, and that you're willing to also compromise.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Rewire with Rose, a podcast where we talk about leadership and mindset. On set today is the lovely Phyllis Wakiaga, who is the managing partner and CEO of Wakiaga and Company Advocates. I hope I said it right.
Yes, you
and
did.
Phyllis is a multifaceted professional that has moved from legal practice to corporate to development. Welcome to the podcast, Phyllis.
Thanks, Rose. Happy to be on Rewire with Rose, and it's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. So to get us started, Phyllis, I always get very intrigued about people that have had careers that have spanned different sectors. And looking at your career path, from lawyer, advocate of the High Court to corporate sector to development, what influenced those shifts for you?
No, thanks. Thanks for that. Yeah, my career has been interesting, and I've been privileged to work across different facets, different sectors, different industries. And I think the thing that influenced that for me was my passion and my curiosity, because I'm a very curious person. I started my career, and one of the things I anchored my career on is a saying that says, don't go where the path has been treaded, go where the path is not been followed, and create your own path. So that's the angle I took. So for me, I started in legal practice after finishing university, went to School of Law, was in legal practice for about 1 year, and then was very keenly looking for a corporate role. So I got a job at Kenya Airways, so worked in the aviation sector, starting from the commercial department of Kenya Airways, where we had a customer relations team that would handle service recovery and claims. So did that for about 3 years, and then moved to industry affairs. So became the coordinator and then manager for government and industry affairs. So aviation sector experience and commercial, that I think was interesting for a lawyer. It made me now completely move into corporate, because when I got the job, when you study law, you study law. But you go into a corporate and people are talking marketing, they're talking finance, they're talking many things. So in the process, I did a higher diploma in HR. I did a master's in business administration just to deeply understand business, which was great. Yeah. Then after that, I moved to the Association of Manufacturers. And for me, CAM was many things, because CAM is a policy organization. So I started as head of policy research and advocacy, and then was CEO also. And I was at CAM for 9 years. But CAM, beyond the advocacy and the engagement with government, when you're CEO, you're running the business. So you're having to ensure that you're meeting finances for the business, that your staff are happy and the team is engaged. Then you have members. We had almost 1,500 member companies, 16 sectors across manufacturing. We had a board of 18 high-level CEOs and members. So it was very, very engaging. So stretched me in every direction. And we also ran things like CAM Consulting, Center for Energy Efficiency. It gave me an opportunity to chair the UN Global Compact Board. And out of CAM, my governance side also grew, because I got to start sitting in a lot of boards then. After CAM, for the last almost 3.5 to 4 years, I've been at the Tony Blair Institute. So I went in as an advisor on industry and commerce, so supporting the country teams on industrial policy work, sector strategies, implementation of that across different countries. And in the back of that, I've sat on very, very diverse boards in banking, manufacturing, international development, and others. So yeah, it's quite diverse.
Yeah, very diverse. And when you think about it, somebody that maybe has just graduated as a lawyer or even in another field that is looking to have experiences that like you've had, those are very different areas, very different skill sets, very different sectors. What do you feel prepared you for that move across, ending growth? And because that's a lot of growth, what do you feel prepared you? Is it the diploma that you did? Is it your own curiosity? Is it your own leadership? Or what do you feel prepared you?
I think it's many things. One of the things I always say, and even now as I've gotten into entrepreneurship fully, I keep saying, I like and I believe that it's important as an individual to always have the ability to learn, relearn, and unlearn. Because through life, you'll never be the same person. You'll never have similar experiences. In fact, there's a saying that no man crosses the same river twice, because it's not the same river and it's not the same man. Because you're always changing, life is always moving.
Yeah.
So I think that ability to be adaptable in new circumstances, to be a quick learner and be ready to learn. So when I get into a new place, I want to deep in, understand, learn. If I'm not understanding something, I'll read about it, I'll research. If I have to go back to school, I will. I'll go do my MBA to understand business better. When I remember when I also joined KAM and I was doing a lot of international trade policy work, I did a master's in international trade and investment law that gave me an opportunity to deeply understand what international trade was in a very coherent way. So I think it's just that ability. What has helped me and what I would say has helped me is that ability to be adaptable, to learn, to be always flexible in new circumstances and to remain curious. Yeah.
Okay. So you find yourself in a boardroom,
Yes.
Kenya Association of Manufacturers, with veteran, experienced business people and entrepreneurs that have had years of experience
Yes.
and grown tremendous size of businesses, the likes of Manu Chandaria, right? And others. So when you sit in this boardroom, young Phyllis,
Yes.
getting into management and leadership,
Yes.
what anchored you?
What anchored me, I think, first of all, is good mentorship and leadership, because I had good mentors and leaders. So in Kenya Association of Manufacturers, when I joined, Betty Maina, the former Minister of Industry, was the CEO then. And she was an amazing leader, the kind of leader who gives you the work, handholds you, but then knows when to throw you into the deep end. I think I had situations where we're in a ministry and she says, "Oh, I'm running late, run the meeting," and things like that. So that kind of leadership and mentorship that gives you an opportunity to be able to stretch yourself and to believe in yourself, I think was very important. The second thing for me is getting to know your staff. Because if you're credible and competent, even in those rooms, I think it makes a difference. Because at the end of the day, people want to work with someone who's helping to figure out solutions, who comes with credible information. If it's, say, for example, a policy is changing, a tax is changing, you've read it, you have information about it, you're proposing solutions on what you think can be done. And then the other thing is teamwork, working with people. Because I was leading, when I started initially, the policy research and advocacy unit, and it's a team of experts. All of them, I think, were older than me at that point, economists, people who have experience in what they're doing. But that ability to be able to bring a team together to help bring out the best in people. And no, you can't be an expert in everything. And there will be people who are experts in their field, but you're creating a team environment to bring out the best in everyone. Yeah.
All right. And in those rooms, did you ever feel unsure? Did you ever doubt yourself? Did you ever experience any imposter syndrome?
Well, I was somewhere yesterday where Rispa Haga was saying she didn't like that imposter syndrome word, because the only syndrome we know is HIV syndrome. But anyway, the thing with the world and the reality is, of course, you're going to feel like that. Like when you're in a room and it's an unfamiliar space, you'll feel challenged. But it's not a bad thing, because what it does, it makes you up your game. It means you prepare better. It means you read more. It means you ask more questions if you need to understand, because sometimes they do know more because they understand their sector more. So it doesn't mean you stop doing it. It means do it scared.
Yeah.
Do it and do it the way you are and prepare. So read more, ask more questions, understand the issues, but don't stop or stop yourself from showing up simply because you're scared. Yeah.
All right, I like that. And maybe also it's create room for your experts, to be able to galvanize what you're speaking about or what you're putting on the table, right?
I agree with you completely.
Yeah. And then you moved on to global work.
Yes.
It's an interesting shift that took you from mainstream corporate to global development. What shaped that shift?
I think the transition to CAM, because CAM was not a corporate, it's like the between corporate and government and international development. Because we're doing a lot of work with corporates as our members, but in the process, we had a lot of projects. I think when I was there, we probably had 12 projects throughout that period. So you were doing a lot of development work, working with different partner countries. We were also doing work across countries, because there was a lot of work in terms of trade negotiations, say with the EAC, COMESA, AFCFTA had started being negotiated. I ended up getting involved in the economic partnership negotiation with the European Union, the conversations when they started on the agreement between Kenya and the US. So that opened up, it wasn't a typical corporate, it opened up a lot of that. And then in the process of advocacy, you then end up working a lot with government, because government is the one that designs and shapes policy. So we did a lot of work with government. So by the time I was transiting, it was from a corporate to a hybrid, because a BMO is a hybrid.
Yeah.
And then to an organization that TBI is the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change, where we work with political leaders and help them to deliver results based on policy, strategy, and delivery. So yeah, it was an interesting shift, but I feel like all these were, the way life can only be understood by looking backward.
Yeah.
When you look at it, it was just a series of steps that made sense. Yeah, because you're able to then bring in the corporate mindset. What is the private sector thinking on this? You're then able to look at what would government think about this? What is the benchmarking globally?
Yeah.
Then all that together makes for a very coherent political advisory mindset when you start working with government. Yeah.
Okay. And that role took you to overseeing projects in multi-countries.
Yes.
Working with very senior level government officials. You and I have had a discussion, and I found the model very interesting, where you got into a country and worked with the highest office, the executive, the presidential delivery unit. Did you feel like the work you did at Tony Blair at CAM prepared you for that transition, or were there new challenges that came with that model of execution, and how did you handle those?
I think all the work I did from the past, including Kenya Airways, CAM, and the entire experiences, did prepare me for the role, because when we're doing work in different countries, there are lessons and nuances from different countries that you could apply. You could, for example, look at business climate work in country X and relate it to how it's done in country Y, not necessarily replicating it, but it was easy to draw lessons. The other thing was stakeholder management and working with high-level government officials. I think in CAM, that's something we did a lot. We were part of, say, the presidential roundtable teams with KEPSA and other partners. We did a lot of work directly with government at the top level, at ministerial level, at presidential level. We did a lot of work, say, at the ESC Secretariat community. So I think all that incrementally did definitely prepare me for that. But it was also a unique experience, because now you're working more directly as a political advisor on economic prosperity, on sector strategies to government. So yeah, that was a new dynamic that was interesting. Yeah.
Okay. And part of that dynamic, what did you find most misunderstood about how decisions get made, especially at, you know, country level, country execution level?
I think how decisions get made, it maybe not only in that one instance, but across board. What I've learned is decisions are not made in the meeting room. They are made out of conversations before you get into the meeting room, where people align, look at different scenarios, look at the political realities sometimes, because something might be good to do, but might not be the right time to do it based on maybe the political realities. So I think for me, the most important thing is that learning that decisions are made, first of all, not fully within the room, but secondly, that there's a lot of balancing in decisions.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, especially when you went to the private sector lens to things, it would be this decision is good for private sector. But government has to balance what is good for government, what is good sometimes for the greater good, what is good for citizens, what is economically or financially feasible. So there's a lot of other dynamics that have to come to play. So the second thing is that decisions require a lot of dynamics. So unless you have visibility of those dynamics, you might not fully be able to either influence or advocate for decisions or understand why they've been made. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And for a young manager or a young leader,
Yes.
what does that mean for them? What advice would you have for them? Because like you rightfully said, decisions are not black and white, and they are not always made in the boardroom. What should people pay attention to when they get into management and leadership regarding shaping decisions?
I think first of all is understanding the stakeholders involved. So whether it's at organizational level, who are the people in the room whose buy-in you need to make the decisions? Because at the end of the day, you do need to advocate for those decisions, maybe have conversations with them, understand why they either support or don't support the decision, get their point of view also, because maybe sometimes I've also had my mind changed on something I strongly believed in just by understanding other people's points of view. So I think having those conversations and then having the ability to rally people behind an idea, I think is very critical.
Yeah.
Because that way, that's how you become influential. And they say leadership is influence.
Yeah.
That's what John Maxwell says, and I agree with him. Because if you're able to influence decisions, that's leadership.
That's leadership.
Yeah, and influence comes from building trusted relationships, people knowing that you're credible, that you come to the table with clean hands, and that you're willing to also compromise. Because at the end of the day, people want someone who can listen so that everyone is able to arrive at a win-win situation as far as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I like what you said about leadership being about influence. And sometimes the influence is informal power. You know, sometimes it's that the people at the boardroom are not really the key decision makers. Maybe it's people that are not present.
Yes.
But they will have lots of input to give to the decision. So especially when it comes to working with country, especially at high level, you know, political level, ministerial level, what would you advise somebody that is in that space about, especially informal power?
Yeah, I think it's important to map out power and influence. So doing political economic analysis, even at a basic level, when you're working, say, with a ministry or a government, understanding the dynamics, understanding the stakeholders, understanding where the power lies, who needs to be convinced, who needs to be influenced, how different people make decisions. Because a lot of times you would find that especially in government, decisions are not made by one part of government because a lot of things are cross-cutting.
Yeah.
So sometimes it means carrying along multiple stakeholders for that decision to stand. So yeah, being able to understand who they are and who influences what, I think is important, and mapping that out.
I like that. So from the work that you've done, what would you say to somebody that is struggling to scale their impact as a manager or a leader, whether it's in development or corporate? What would you say should be their first stop? the first thing they should do?
I think that's quite broad,
Yeah.
but what I would say, if you want to scale your impact, it would start from even understanding what your purpose is in the space you're in. Because at the end of the day, your impact will only scale to the level of your purpose. Because when you're sent to a space, or when God gives you an opportunity to be in a space, there's that purpose that He's placed in your heart for why you should be there.
Yeah.
So if you're able to understand that and articulate it to yourself quite clearly, it defines for you then the things that matter and the things you want to impact. Yeah. So just not to be abstract. For me, for example, I'm very clear that my purpose is to influence, whether it's individuals, organizations, government, and that is so that at the end of the day, we can have impact in the world.
Yeah.
So I do it at different levels. If I'm working with individuals through, say, for example, Career Site, which is a social enterprise I started that is now a HR advisory and career services firm, I'm looking at how do I run programs or do things that can impact individuals in their careers, in making better choices, in having fulfilled working lives. If I'm working with organizations, I'll be looking at what can I do to impact this organization or to work with them so that they have a greater impact in the world. So I lean a lot on sometimes supporting on how do we become commercially viable? How do we even work on ESG? I've influenced creation of ESG committees in organizations and even gotten people to join UN Global Compact just to do that. So I think if you know your purpose, you're able then to do impactful work.
All right. And I think that's how you're able to apply yourself best at the positions where you find yourself, because purpose energizes.
Yeah.
You know, it is said if you're in line with your purpose, it's the one thing that you'll be able to do without pay, with your eyes closed. Okay. Do you want to speak a bit more about the work that you're doing with Career Insights? Because I think it's a very unique model, but very needed in the market today.
Okay, so no, thanks for that. So Career Site is an organization where we work with individuals and organizations. Our purpose is to have fulfilling careers and also to bring out the best in people when they are serving in organizations. So we do different things. So we have career dialogue platforms, and career dialogue platforms are platforms where we have mentors speaking about their experiences in different parts of their careers, and we have people in the room who are able to then have those conversations with them. And one of the things behind that was to bridge the gap between the Gen Z and the rest of us in the workplace, because we felt like it's good to all of us come into rooms and just have dialogues about our careers and the different perspectives that we have. So we do this quarterly, and we are trying to see how we make it thematic and everything. We also have master classes that we run monthly, and master classes on different topics, depending on the speaker speaking. And what the master classes are for, to go deep into specific areas so that we build the capacity of the community on those topics. Then we have specific programs that we run. So we have a Career Pathways program. And Career Pathways is a program where we work with individuals at different stages of their careers. So when you start your career, you're normally looking at trying to figure out how you define your value, how you position yourself in the market. So we have a program called Launchpad for that period of your career, and that helps you position yourself well in the market as you start your career. Then in Pathways, we also have the next level, which is normally called Ascent. You're growing in your career, you're mid-level, you're getting either bored or anxious about your position, and you want to grow into management or leadership. So that program, Ascent, helps you to figure that out. And we have Summit, which is for professionals like myself or yourself who you've worked, you're at the peak of your career, you're looking at impact.
Yeah.
What next? How do I build, say, a portfolio career and diversify? So that's what we do. Then the other program that we are launching from me is called Mentor Capability, where we'll be building capacity on mentorship. Because mentorship is actually, I think, a lot of times handled like it's an unstructured conversation, but there's a lot of science behind mentorship. So for that one, we're working with the International Mentorship Center, and I'll be rolling out in partnership with them and the career side team, a mentor capability program from May. So those are some of the things we do. We also partner with different programs. Like last week, we launched a program with the women it's called WISE, the Women in Consulting and Engineering, as part of the programs under the Association of Consulting Engineering, to try and close the gender gap in engineering using the power of mentorship, leadership development, and sponsorship and advocacy. So we've done a similar program with the women in real estate and other programs. So yeah, that's what we do in a nutshell. But our website is careersite.co.ke. For more details, we do one-on-one mentorship sessions also. And yeah.
Okay. I would encourage the viewers to look that up. And kudos for giving back to the society.
Thank you.
Often leaders don't remember that there's responsibility on us, that whatever it is that you've learned, someone else could find it useful. And that's one of the reasons also why I started Rewire with Rose. So back to your career journey. What would you say across, the roles that you've done has been one skill set that has helped you to climb the career ladder as fast as you have? Because I would say yours has been a fast rise. It's not been conventional, right? What would you say that capability is? And what would you encourage someone to do to develop such a capability?
I think for me, I would lean in on relationship management and building relationships, because I think that is one of the things that has really supported my career growth. So that ability to build trusted relationships with whether it's stakeholders, your managers, the business community, government, and that comes from taking time. So sometimes just taking time to sit down with people, to build the relationships, to get to know people, because then it becomes easier to work together. And just being conscious that at the end of the day, we're just people. Because I think sometimes we forget that. And that's why they say EQ is what takes you far. Because EQ is how you build relationships, how you communicate with people, how you're able to empathize with people. So I think that EQ skill is critical, and alongside relationship building, which is linked to that, that for me, I think would be it, because that's the software. The hardware is the hard things. Of course, I've had to know my stuff. I've had to go to school. I've had to do that. That's the hardware. And it's great to have it, and it's important and foundational. But I feel like the EQ and the software is really where the magic happens.
I agree with you completely, because many people will have the same skills that you have or the same hardware that you have. But how you move from one role to another is dependent on your EQ. Somebody said that we hire for attitude and not skill, because skill you can train. But attitude you cannot. So it sounds like you're agreeing with that view.
I agree
that
with you,
having the right attitude, using that to develop relationships at various levels. I think earlier you said, like if you're working with, if you're advising the presidential delivery unit, there's a different skill when you're building that relationship as compared to when you're building a relationship with your team. So EQ enables you to easily navigate that process. To somebody that is looking at, should I follow a beaten path as a lawyer and as an advocate and continue to the highest level? Or should I try out different things? And what if I try them and they don't work out? What would you tell them based on your experience?
Thanks for the question. But I think the answer depends, because it depends on your own purpose and your own path. Because maybe for you, you can follow the normal path and be outstanding at it and do well at it. Or you can follow the less trodden path and also be outstanding there. So I think the main thing is be excellent, whichever path you choose. Go in, do it with excellence, bring in your credibility, bring in your competence, and do it with all your excellence. So I think if you make that an anchor, whichever path you choose, you'll rise to the top. Yeah. Not as easily as that, but chances are if you bring your A game, you do your best, you have your EQ, and you pick a path. And it won't be easy. Sometimes we'll fail forward, you learn, you try something else. Yeah.
Okay. What trade-offs have you had to make?
The trade-offs I've had to make is, I spoke to this somewhere, time and availability. Because the reality of the work I've had to do, it's been busy, demanding on my time. I'm a mother of 4 children and a wife, and I have family. So it has meant that sometimes I've been very busy, I've traveled. So it's taken a toll on my time and availability. So it's made me become very disciplined about my time. And I always say my weekends are for family. My weekdays, sometimes I don't know what time my day will end, but my weekends are for family. And I just try to be deliberate about how I organize my life. And I'm grateful for my spouse, who's been an amazing support system. I've also had the privilege, my parents, when they were alive, were constantly with the kids and were a great support system. My help has also been with me for maybe 18 years. So I'm thankful to God that support system has existed. But yeah, time and availability is one of those trade-offs that I've had to make, but I've made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly. To get to where you've made it work.
I've tried to, yeah.
The social network, I'm hearing you say, is very critical.
Yes.
Have you had mother guilt at any time? You know, like some leaders experience this guilt that you're being less available for your children, or your, you know, the trade-off is beginning to have a toll on your confidence as a mother.
A little, but stopped myself because I try to look at time in blocks of time.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it today, how much time did I spend, but over time, this month or this quarter, how am I doing? And as I say, for me, weekends are important. I go to church on Saturday. I teach in the Sabbath school class. I'll spend Saturday at home with the kids on Sunday. So I try and make my weekends the time I catch up with family and family time, and my weekdays as much as possible. And now as an entrepreneur, I think I'm having a good time. I drop my son in school. I try and do homework sometimes. Yeah, so yeah, I do believe as mothers, we do try our best.
Yeah.
We work, we give our time as much as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I try not to be guilty.
Yeah, and you have to.
And I had a working mother and I turned out fine. So
yeah.
I hope so. I hope I turned out fine.
You did turn out well. So you also have to give yourself grace as a mother that, you know, you're doing the best.
That's
being out there, you're doing the best for your children, because they also need to see a role model.
That's true.
That resembles where they are going to be in life.
That's very true.
How about social network? Have you had social networks around you, friends, groups, or people that, you know, have helped you to manage a very high stress career? I mean, I'm asking because I know, you know, jobs like yours, especially your last one that had lots of countries that you're overseeing, it's a lot of travel. It's a lot of late night meetings. It's a lot of calendars that look crazy. You know, has there been a role for social networks?
Yeah, I have good social networks. Small circles of friends, but good ones. Yeah, so we do get together, catch up, travel. I think I was in a travel somewhere with you last year. Yeah, and I have my sisters who I spend time with, some of my best friends from high school and from different settings in life. I think I'm a member of all my alumni WhatsApp groups. I have friends I was with from nursery, in my primary, high school, university class. So I do have those networks, and even in the business community, the friendships I've made along the way. And they've shown up for me, like when my parents are sick, when they passed away, my social network showed up for me tremendously, and even to support the work I do. So I feel like the social network has been important and has been really an amazing support system.
Kudos to you. That's
Thank you.
An amazing network. I could do better there. So if someone is listening and maybe they're feeling overlooked, they're feeling that they have the certificates, they have the experience, but somehow they don't feel like their career path is taking the shape they would like. What are some practical tips you can give them that they can use in the next few months to get traction? And I ask this on the preface of this phrase in Kenya that you have to know people, you know, for you to get a job or you to be promoted or for you to move. What would you say to such a person?
I think, first of all of us are created with strengths and what we are uniquely good at. So one of them would be understanding at a personal level what that is for you and being able to package it rightly. Because if, for example, you're looking for a job, you want the market to be able to understand your value, and how you package that, I think, is very important. So looking at whether it's your training, your experiences, the things you're good at, and being able to package them. The second thing I would say to them, depending, the reality is nowadays the job market is not what it used to be. But on the other hand, technology, AI has come with other opportunities. So look for opportunities where those strengths of yours or your value can translate into either you giving advisory work, whether it means volunteering or sitting on boards, or being able to even look for online jobs, because now there are a lot of those type of opportunities. The other thing would be to speak to a mentor or a coach, and we are happy to do that as Career Site. But even in your circle, there's someone who's either more senior than you, who has worked, your brother, your sister, so speak to someone about it. Let them look at your CV and help you see how you can package yourself, because that, I think, is important. But also look out for opportunities, because if you go online, there are jobs, there are opportunities you can apply for, but you can also go to organizations and request for opportunities to volunteer, to collaborate.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times nowadays, people are even looking for people to collaborate with them. And if you go with an idea and something you can work on, that could be an entry point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like what you said about volunteering, because sometimes people overlook the fact that you've got to put value on the table
That's true.
before you can be considered often. And sometimes that value is going to be unpaid.
That's,
You know, sometimes it's going to be hours that you've put in unpaid, but then that puts you before people that can be able to judge your skill and your ability and your attitude as well. So I think volunteering is an often overlooked channel that people can use to get into mainstream.
That's true.
But the other thing that I find also, and I don't know whether this has been your experience, is that often people don't apply for opportunities because they feel they don't know someone, or they don't, you know?
Or sometimes they don't even tick all the boxes. I have a lot of people who say, I looked at the CV, I mean the JD, and I didn't meet 5 of them.
Yeah.
When I used to look for jobs, when I would apply, even if I think I qualify 50%, I will still apply. And especially women, we have the ability to disqualify ourselves even before anyone has disqualified us. So I agree with you that sometimes look at those opportunities, apply for them, go and ask.
Yeah.
Because we assume sometimes, that job is advertised, but they've probably given it to someone already. And the other thing, a tip I got from one of my friends, Dr. Chitunga, is when you go to look like in websites of organizations, a lot of times we go to the jobs, but in those websites, there's also consultancies, a lot of consultancy opportunities that we overlook.
Yeah.
So you're looking for a job, but they could be a short-term 3-month consultancy opportunity that you could probably also do.
Yeah.
So that would be another tip, that as you're looking, especially in international development work, you can go in as a consultant. Yeah, that's another way to get into the workspace.
Yeah. I like that. And I think the only opportunity you'll have missed is the one you didn't apply for.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
What about somebody that may feel like they have really stagnated in one job level for many years, and they're thinking they want the next, but somehow they haven't just gotten the next.
Yeah.
I like something that you said, that women especially
Mm.
will not apply for a job if they don't think they tick all the boxes.
Yeah.
That has been my experience as well. And it's
Yeah.
the same in promotion.
Yes.
But what's your experience been like, and what would you tell somebody that has stagnated in a role for long?
I think first of all, it's to take stock of the role, because a lot of times in the jobs we're even doing more than the JD says. So how do you package your journey? Because maybe you've worked for 10 years in 3 different roles. How are you telling that story? How are you bringing out the competencies you've built along the way? How are you defining yourself to the market? Because that's what positions you then for the next role.
Yeah.
Then the next thing is to decide which path you want to take.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's not one path, 2 or 3 paths, narrow down and say, I've worked for the last X number of years. I've done these 3 different things. And I think what I have enjoyed doing the most, what I have naturally been good at, what the market would likely pay me for, like do an ikigai and review your journey and say, out of this, most likely I should focus on jobs in these 2-3 areas. And that's something I help people do when I'm doing mentorship. And then now zeroing down, if it's these 3 areas, what are the organizations that have jobs in these areas? What are the opportunities for consulting? Then working towards, how do I then reach out to those organizations? How do I see when they have openings? And also, how do I become an entrepreneur? Because a lot of times you can then go, if you're feeling like you've stagnated, and offer your skills in the market. So you can start your own business. You can start your own IT consulting firm. You can start your own legal practice. So sometimes being able to take stock and then decide the direction you want to go. Because I feel like for careers, and why I'm passionate about career site, is we have to be intentional about them. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional. You have to constantly be looking and saying, this is the direction I want to take. And to do it, what do I need to do? Do I need to join a network? Do I need to join an association? Am I looking for a fellowship? Am I getting another skill or training? So having those conversations with yourself or with a mentor if possible, or coach.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. But I think also someone has to have that conversation with their supervisor or their manager, because often people assume that because you've been on a job level for a long time, that you just need to be promoted.
Yeah.
You know, someone said that time served is not a performance metrics.
No, it's not.
You know, you've got to be able to package, like you've said, package what you've done, make it clear to your supervisor that you're interested, and find out what the next level requires, and then start operating as that next level. Have there been situations where you've had to present yourself for a promotion before it was called for, and what did you do?
One of the things, just to add to what you said about speaking internally, is putting your hand up for opportunities. Because a lot of times there's room for you to do more where you are, at the position you are, and there are opportunities. They'll say, for example, who wants to lead a task force on this new thing we are doing? Put your hand up. Volunteer to lead, because that helps you also to build evidence of your ability. And the example maybe I would give on the question you've asked is when I moved to become CEO of the Association of Manufacturers, because I was the head of policy research and advocacy, and the CEO, the contract was coming to an end and they were transitioning into a new CEO. And the board did reach out and say, there's this position, and from the heads of policy, we are considering you. Would you want to be considered? And I put my hand up and I said, yes, I would be interested to have a conversation on that.
Yeah.
So that's one time I did that. And I ended up being the CEO designate for 3 months under the leadership of Betty before I took over the role. So that's one example I can give. And also in my role at TB, I remember when Justin Toh, who was the head of economic prosperity, joined the team, and I was initially doing private sector development when I joined, and in an Africa role. And he said, there's this industry and commerce role. Would you be interested in doing it, or do we advertise? I said, yeah, I would be interested. Let's look at it. So I'm always that person who puts their hand up in the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have found that people that put their hand up, they move up faster than most people. And to your point earlier that you spoke about women not not applying for a job when the checklist is not, when you're not checking it off every point. I have found that it's the same also with promotion.
Yes.
That many women will wait until they meet every requirement for the next role before they can put their hand up. But I think what I'm hearing you say is that put it up anyway, because that's how you'll create that competency, that skill, and that's how also you'll demonstrate your ability to operate at the next level, right?
I agree with you, yeah.
Okay.
And do it scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of times people hold back because
Yeah.
they are not sure, but do it. Put your hand up and then step up to the
Yeah.
position. It might mean more nights of reading about the topic. It might mean more nights of getting to understand or to fit into the role. But I think it's worth it sometimes.
Yeah. No, I agree. It might also mean less time to hang out with your peers.
I know.
For a season.
Yes, for a season. Yes.
But then it does pay off.
It does.
So, Phyllis, this podcast is targeted at mid-career professionals who are looking to move to the next level, or who are looking at what do they need to do to position themselves.
Yes.
Do you feel like there's anything that would be useful for that segment that we may have left out?
I think for mid-career professionals, normally the unease there is a lot of them feel like they're not being fully optimized where they are, and they start getting restless. But I think that's the right time to pivot, because when you're in the middle of your career, you are not green anymore. You have been tested by whether it's the organization, society, the things you're good at. The things that you need to learn are clear to you. You've probably also built additional competencies through training and other things. You've built some networks. So you're actually in a good place. But the thing is then how you pivot, because some people stall mid-career. And for mid-career professionals, you really have to be intentional about this. So you have to have a clear career plan so that you know that, like for me, every 5 years, I would say, okay, this is what I think I want my career to look like. These are the networks I need to be part of. These are the fellowships I'd be interested in being part of. If it's additional training, I need to do a certification in this area. If it's exposure, I need exposure in this. So I think having that clarity in mid-career helps you to start mapping the direction your career goes. The second thing is getting a mentor or a coach, depending on what stage you're in or what you prefer. And that has been useful. I've had both structured coaching and mentors in my life. So in mid-career, I think it helps. It helps you to stay disciplined and to stay focused. And I think honing your leadership skills and competencies, because the next level or going into leadership, directorship will require a lot of that.
Yeah.
So being intentional about it, whether it means doing leadership training, reading leadership books, there's a lot of information out there that is very useful in this journey. So read a lot, learn from people, and put your hand up for opportunities.
Yeah. Okay. A part of your experience has also been with business people, through your role at CAM and other roles. What would you say to a business person that is maybe just into the growth stage, or they're just after startup? Would the same advice apply, or what additional would you tell them?
I think business is an interesting ball game, and now I'm fully an entrepreneur. But I think also for businesses, there are businesses that go past the growth stage very well, but others struggle because they don't put in systems, processes, and the right things early on. So I feel like for business also, as you grow, ensure that you have your structures right, that you have your systems right, that you're ready for takeoff. Because a lot of times you find businesses struggling because they don't have, whether it's strong financial systems in place, institutional systems, governance systems. So putting that in place, I think, is important for growth. Because even for financiers to fund your business, they are looking at your structures, your processes, your systems. For you also as an entrepreneur to be able to elevate and take the business to the next level and allow the business to run, you need those structures and systems to give you room to either fundraise or position the business in the market by joining associations and things like that. So how do you build a strong business base to take it to the next level? Yeah, so that would be my advice for growth businesses. And please join BMOs because they have a lot of support program. BMOs are business member organizations like CAM, KEPSA, and others. They have support systems, they have networks that are very useful for business people. So even for me in my first year, I mean, as understanding BMOs, one of the opportunities, I said it's a missed opportunity. If you're in a business and you're not part of those networks, you're also losing out on opportunity to learn and also to connect with your customers. Yeah.
And benchmark as well.
Benchmark, yeah.
I totally agree. And I think many businesses struggle because of being mom and pop, you know, that you start a business because you're passionate about it, you're able to deliver, but then you fail to put systems together so that it can survive without you, or it can be fundable, it can be defendable. And like you're saying, if you're going to go to the next level, maybe raising funds or whatever level that is, your books are going to be scrutinized, your systems are going to be scrutinized. So your governance is going to be scrutinized as well.
Yeah.
I also like the point you talked about associations.
Yes.
I mean, and you know, in addition to the great things you said, also benchmarking. Because when you're a lone ranger, you think what you're doing is the best.
Exactly.
Yeah, until you meet peers that are doing better than you or that have best practices that you can borrow.
That's true. And having a lot of times it's competitors in the same room, but you learn a lot from each other. And you also create an environment that allows your businesses to thrive.
Yeah.
So you're able to advocate for better policies, regulatory changes, and make the business environment better for all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're a significant number, somebody's going to pay attention.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. It's been amazing having this conversation with you. I look forward to a follow-on conversation. Please follow Phyllis on career sites. Do you want to say your socials?
So Phyllis Wakiaga is my social media handle on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and others. And then we have careersite.co.ke, also known as careersite on the social media handles. And then Wakiaga and Company Advocates. So Wakiaga and Company Advocates.co.ke. Yeah, look forward to seeing you follow us.
Thank you.
Thanks,
it's been
Rose.
amazing having this conversation. Thank you for following another episode of Rewire with Rose. Please engage with our socials as well on Rewire with Rose, on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. The handle is the same. It's Rewire with Rose. Subscribe to our channel. Let us know if there are guests that you'd like us to have on this podcast or if there are topics that you'd like us to cover. Thank you very much.